How's it going, everyone? It's been some time, and it's time for another review of two. And I thought it'd be a great time to go over Framed Ink 1 and 2. Both of these books basically talk about composition and different things to remember and think about when you're composing a shot, right? Framed Ink 1 is the first book and essentially kind of starts this saga and brings up a lot of good information for you to know when you're composing a shot. Brings up different elements that you would be using: long or wide shot, medium shot, close up, extreme close up, rule of thirds, these types of things. Um, and brings to your attention, the reasons why you would want to use them. Same things with lines that exist and lines that don't exist, right? Lines of sight, horizon line, um, screen direction, characters looking direction, things like that, and how to play with those elements. Also, how lighting plays an effect on shots and things of that nature. And you have the angle of the camera, um, what you get to see because of the angle of the camera, you know, um, trying to balance out, how many characters you have, how they're arranged in the shot, and also little breakdowns and thumbnails about how to think about the shot when you're constructing it. Those things are always really vital because, you may be able to draw very well, but composing a shot doesn't necessarily require you to be able to draw very well. It does require you to be able to figure out how you're going to balance those elements in your composition. And that's when, being able to completely draw something very well comes into play. But yeah, being able to compose the shot, you don't necessarily need to do that, or at least you don't want to be thinking that way when you're composing it. That way, you'll have more time to construct many different options for the shot until you find the right one that really works the best. It's exactly why, if you guys, some people are opposed to thumbnailing or they may not know how to do it well, a lot of people jump and skip that step and just start drawing because drawing is fun. I usually do that too, but when I'm working on comics, I don't because I'm always trying to compose shots. And same thing with when I'm doing like pinup drawings at this point. I'm actually thinking about how to move the reader's eye around the panel or the canvas, if you will, and trying to make sure that I get people to look where I'd like them to look. I try to make sure that there is a focal point in each thing that I draw so that everything kind of gets you there. And that's a good way to think to some degree, right? Um, so, most of this book is about the frame. And the frame that's being kind of talked about in here is, I believe, the cinematic frame. Or maybe in some cases even the TV frame, right? So eventually there's a section in that kind of covers graphic novels. Um, but the thing about graphic novels, right, is that they have a bunch of different types of frames. They have square, rectangle, horizontal, vertical. They can even do cinematic things, cinematic frame ratios. They can even do double page spreads, you know? Well, how do you think about constructing a sequence for those? And how do you think about constructing, the frame for those, composing those shots? What if you have a shot in your head, but when you sketch it out, you only can think about it in the horizontal aspect ratio? Well, how are you going to apply it to something like this with these verticals, right? Well, you have to be able to take your shot, know how you can spin it and fit it into any type of aspect ratio. and shape and be able to utilize it the best that you can each time you're working on comics. And that's exactly how we get to Framed Ink 2. So supposedly, Framed Ink 1 was out for about 10 years, and I guess I was a little late to the party because I bought my book about 5 years ago. So, Framed Ink 2 already starts off giving us a glimpse at what it's going to be talking about on the cover. Different aspect ratios and how you can essentially manipulate one shot into those different aspect ratios. You know, trying to hopefully hold on to, I guess this is a spoiler, holding on to the central focus of each shot while either losing or gaining something, you know, when you're trying to change those aspect ratios. Because, you know, if something's a vertical shot and you extend the sides, you have now more horizontal space to play with. If you extend the verticality of it, it's even more vertical, you know. And if it was a square, well, now you have even more things to play with. We also talk about tension in shots. We talk about different ways to get the reader to spin or turn in space, things of that nature. And yeah, it's basically just a really great book on composing different shots or the same type of shot with different aspect ratios. Also, it brings up some great points about how the flow works in composition, how you can manipulate those types of flows, and even when it comes to groups of characters and a few characters at a time. Obviously, this is a background with like no characters, but technically it is the character, right? And you know how to manipulate someone's eye to go where you want it to go, how you can create a feeling of tension and change. It's really good stuff. If there was anything I learned from this book, it was something dealing with flow versus, I would say, what's that other term that everyone uses? Force. How when you're doing a gesture drawing of a character, you want to attempt to create a feeling of force and rhythm in the movement of the character. Well, in composition, how that applies is that's called flow, and it's how the reader goes and moves across the overall composition. But then you have this orange line here that kind of more so describes, in my opinion, the force of the subject in the composition. That's separate from the flow going across the composition of how you would move in and out of it. It's kind of the relationship of the subject in the scene and the things around it. So that's really interesting. And I think that if you guys look for any more information on constructing a shot, constructing a scene, you know, giving you guys more information on composition, this is the way to go. Last but not least, this part right here, probably my favorite part in the book, because it talks about how every little minute detail, even if, like, if you're constructing a shot, let's just make something up real quick. You're constructing a shot. It's a character, and they're walking towards their room, and we're showing their room. Each part of their room, or the things that are in their room, including them and what they're wearing and their shape and silhouette, all those things are shapes, and you can use those things from different angles to figure out the best ways to play them against each other to get different emotional impact. You know, this book is great. Definitely say get this book and Framed Ink 1. Highly recommended books for composition and storytelling, and definitely for comic books. Get this book, everyone. It's great.